Good morning, everyone. Welcome to a brand new edition of the GSMC Basketball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Mehrob Fatemi. We got a packed show lined up for you guys today. Last night, obviously, we saw Game 2 between the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Oklahoma City Thunder. It was a phenomenal game, do not get me wrong, but the Thunder continued to look like they're continuing to outclass the Minnesota Timberwolves in every dynamic possible. We'll dive into that, recapping that game to start off the show, as well as discussing are the Minnesota Timberwolves missing a piece, like specifically a piece that could possibly be hindering them from getting over the top or contending with the Oklahoma City Thunder. You'll see exactly what I mean as we dive into that topic in our second segment. From there, we'll also discuss the Knicks and Pacers Game 3 or Game 2 later tonight. We obviously saw the madness of Game 1. The Pacers coming back from 16 points down over the last 6 minutes. Just a unbelievable game. In my opinion, that was the best game of the playoffs so far. And that was just Game 1. Game 2 is lined up for us tonight, and you better get your popcorn ready because this is going to continue to be a phenomenal series. If that was just a preview of what to expect in this series, we have a lot of fireworks waiting for us down the line. And yeah, we'll discuss that in our third segment here. We'll also discuss David Adelman. David Adelman being officially hired by the Denver Nuggets. He was the interim head coach after Mike Malone was fired at the tail end of the season. Went 3-0 before the playoffs and took the team to a Game 7 against arguably the best team in the league right now. The Oklahoma City Thunder are playing phenomenal basketball. So just because the Nuggets lost to them, I don't think it's an indictment against Adelman in any way. And honestly, since it went 7 games, in fact, I would give Adelman a little bit of credit because it went 7 games. And we'll discuss the future of what to expect from Denver come this offseason. And then finally, of course, I got to give my weekend predictions because it is a wonderful Friday morning, and yeah, what better way to start your Friday morning than by giving some NBA predictions for not only tonight but the weekend ahead of us. So that's the show lined up for us today in its totality. But before we move any further, I'd like to remind you guys to please like and follow the show for more GSMC Sports Network content. Also, we get a number of questions from viewers that come during the show, so to ensure that your question gets read on air, I ask that you use the tips and donations link at gsmcpodcast.net. This puts your question at the top of the list so I see it, and it also really helps out the show. Again, the link is gsmcpodcast.net for all your questions and comments. But let's dive right into it here because we have to recap what was another phenomenal Western Conference final matchup. Game 2 between the Timberwolves and the Thunder. And honestly, two teams that honestly could not hit the backside of the barn last night. They could not hit water if they fell out of a boat. That sounds better. Both teams shooting horrifically from three-point range, neither getting over 30%. But it was still the Thunder that cleared the way for. It was still the Thunder that still ended up pulling out this game. What we're gonna do once again, what I've been doing these last few days, I'm gonna keep one segment about the Thunder, and then we'll dive into the Timberwolves side of things in our next segment in a few minutes here. But when we're looking at the Thunder's perspective in this game, first things first, I want to give a lot of love to Jalen Williams. Jalen Williams is a player that has been struggling throughout these playoffs, has been not hindering, but it's been looking to grow into that number 2 option for the Oklahoma City Thunder. In every game that's played in the playoffs, it not only boosts his confidence, but he's getting more and more experience. This is his experience right now. And last night was his best game of the playoffs by far. 26 points, 10 rebounds, 5 assists, 12 of 20 from the field, 2 of 6 from 3. Just gaining confidence in his shot. Not shooting 2 of 14 from the field. Not shooting less than 10 shots a game. He's putting up shots. He's making baskets. That's what you need. That's what you need from a shooter. You need him to continue to shoot the ball. And sometimes that's some things a lot of younger players forget sometimes. Jalen Williams will be a number 2 option in this league, in my opinion, and this is his time to shine. This is his moment to grow, and he's growing right now. He's playing unbelievably well. Chet Holmgren also had 22 points, not to mention Shai Gilgeous-Alexander pulling in 38, probably his best playoff performance so far. Of these playoffs, we haven't seen him crack that 40-point mark yet, but this is the closest he's gotten to it, and he's played phenomenally down the stretch here. So major props to SGA with how he's been playing. But over the last 5 games, this is SGA's stat line. 31 points, 32 points, 35, 31, and 38. That goes from game 5 against the Denver Nuggets all the way to last night. This is an SGA who's playing out of his mind right now. And he's not only playing great basketball, he's making the guys around him better. And that is when you see a player that's able to make his teammates around him better. The same way Tyrese Halliburton is. The same way I'm trying to think of another player. The only one I can really think of. LeBron's done it in the past. LeBron doesn't do it anymore. Luka does it. But mainly the 2 guys that do it nowadays, it's SGA and Tyrese Halliburton. 2 guys that have just played phenomenal basketball, and they just make the guys around them better. They facilitate the ball. They get guys into open spots, open shots. The way they're able to keep the attention of the defense to make their teammates around them, get them open. It's phenomenal. It's just phenomenal offense overall from the Oklahoma City Thunder. But yeah, I mean, when you look at this Thunder team, last night was probably the most top-heavy game we've seen from them. And what I mean from that is they didn't usually they spread the ball around. They have 5-6 guys getting into double figures. Last night they only had 3. They had one 30-point scorer and they had 2 20s. So, and you had a bunch of 9s. You had an 8-point scorer, but usually you see a little bit more depth. And it's not an indictment. It just shows that the Thunder can play different styles of basketball whenever you need them to. If you need Shai to go take over a game, he'll go do that. If you need Lou Dort to have a big game off the bench, he'll go do that. If you need Alex Caruso to pull in some big minutes and make some big shots, he'll do that. That is what the Oklahoma City Thunder do, and that is why I think they're still probably the best team in the Western Conference. I thought it was the Timberwolves. I thought if Anthony Edwards had a bounce-back game, I thought the Timberwolves were going to come back and tie this series up at 1-1. And Anthony Edwards did have a good game, and we'll talk more about that in the next segment. But when you look at this Thunder team, it is almost impossible to beat them it's almost impossible to beat them without multiple reliable scorers. And yeah, that's kind of giving a sneak peek into our next segment here, but you need more than one reliable scorer if you are to beat this Thunder team. The reason why the Nuggets pushed it to 7 games, because they have Jamal Murray and Jokic. They have Aaron Gordon, and they have, Christian Braun showed up a little bit later in the series, but he still did. You saw Jordan Strather have a big Game 6 in the fourth quarter. Fourth quarter in Game 6. This is what I'm talking about when I'm saying you need guys like that to knock off this Thunder team. You need guys to step up in big moments. And honestly, we haven't really seen the Timberwolves players collectively do that. We've seen sporadically one guy does it here, one guy does it there. But when one guy does it, another guy takes a step back. Once again, we'll get into that in the next segment here. But yeah, when we're looking at this Oklahoma City Thunder team, we have to give credit where credit is due. This is a phenomenal basketball team that is most likely, it's not official yet by any means, but most likely this team is going to the championship and is going to win the championship. And it's going to go back to exactly what I was talking about yesterday with SGA. SGA wins MVP, a championship, and finals MVP. If he does all 3 of those, I don't. It's pretty much indisputable that he's the number one. He's the best player in the world right now, and it probably puts him somewhere in the top, at least in the top 50 players of all time, because this has only happened one other time or 15 other times in NBA history where a player has won the MVP, championship, and Finals MVP. And the last time it happened, it was LeBron James in 2013. So this is the company that SGA is being compared to right now. This just doesn't happen anymore, plain and simple. But yeah, when we look at things like this, 118 to 103, 2-0 series lead going back to Minnesota. I mean, unless the Timberwolves are able to take out the Thunder not only once, but twice. If they can do it twice in a row, bring it back to OKC tied 2-2, then I think the Timberwolves may have a chance if they do that. But I'm not giving them a best chance. I'm not giving them a good chance of doing that. I think they can win game 3. I think they will win game 3. But I don't think they're going to win game 4. I really don't. I don't see it. I think the Thunder are just too good. I think SGA is too good. I think Jalen Williams is too good right now. Chet Holmgren's playing out of his mind. And the Thunder are hunting mismatches right now. They really are. So that's just my take on it. I think the Thunder are pretty much going to win this series now. Up 2-0 going back to Minnesota. But I'm going to take a short break. Coming up next, we're going to switch gears over to the Timberwolves side of things. Discuss what happened with them, some things that went wrong, some things that went right, and what's the missing piece. It feels like this team is one piece away from being able to contend with the Oklahoma City Thunder. And we'll dive into all of that in our next segment. You're watching the GSMC Basketball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Don't go anywhere.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits, some losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip, you choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to the GSMC Basketball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Mehrob Fatemi. Getting into our next segment here, we're going to switch gears over from the Oklahoma City side of things and jump over to the Timberwolves. Because honestly, especially with these Western Conference Finals, it's just better to break these up just because it makes them easier to talk about, more things to talk about, more detailed analyses, and I know you guys love that. But in this segment, we're going to dive into what happened to the Timberwolves, some things they did right, what went wrong for them in this game, and potentially one missing piece. The missing piece away. Oof. Excuse me, guys. Just give me 2 seconds. I'll be right back. I'm so sorry. Alrighty. I'm so sorry about that, guys. I'm back. I just had to take care of something really quick. But we were talking about the Timberwolves, what's going on with them, what went wrong for them yesterday, what went right, as well as one piece away. It feels like they're one piece away from contending with this Oklahoma City Thunder team. It feels like the Thunder are just one step ahead of them in terms of matchups, in terms of being able to shut them down specifically offensively. And we'll get into that in this segment as well. This is pretty much going to be exactly what we talked about last segment with the Thunder, except just hit the little switcheroo and talk about the Minnesota Timberwolves instead. But before we move any further, I'd like to remind you guys to please like and follow the show for more GSMC Sports Network content. Also, we get a number of questions from viewers that come in during the show, so to ensure that your question gets read on air, ask that you use the tips and donations link at gsmcpodcast.net. This puts your question at the top of the list so that I see it, and it also really helps out the show. Again, the link is gsmcpodcast.net for all your questions and comments. But let's dive right back into it here. I'm so sorry about that break again, guys. I promise it won't happen again. But when we're talking about this Minnesota Timberwolves team, I mentioned at the top of the show in the last segment as well. Both of these teams did not shoot the ball well at all. At all. The Timberwolves shot 11 of 39, and the Thunder shot 9 of 33 from three-point range. So both teams shooting the ball horrifically from outside. And this is this is the second game in a row that the Timberwolves have done so. Last in game 1, shooting 15 of 51. So this is a bad sign. This is really a bad sign for the Timberwolves here. But it is 2 games in Oklahoma City, and this is why I'm saying we should give them a little bit of a chance in Minnesota, just in case they can figure out their shooting and get hot in Minnesota. But we're talking about game 2 right now. We're not looking that far into the future yet. When we're talking about game 2, the first guy that deserves recognition for how he's been playing, or his bounce back game, is Anthony Edwards. 32 points, 9 rebounds, 6 assists, an all-around pretty good game out of him. This is what we expect from Anthony Edwards these days. We expect him to show up and show out, especially in the fourth quarter the way he did. Coming back, trying to lead a comeback against this Thunder squad, cutting the lead under 10 with 2 minutes to play. The Thunder eventually ended up blooming the lead back up, but it was Anthony Edwards that was trying to force a little bit of a comeback, the same way the Pacers did so against the Knicks. The problem is the Thunder are just not the Knicks, so it's harder to shut them down. But major props to Anthony Edwards, the way he's been playing, because if it wasn't for him, this team would not even be past the first round. Seriously. I don't think they would have made it past the Lakers. I definitely don't think they would have made it past the Warriors. And now they find themselves in the conference finals for the second year in a row. But, yeah, that's the first player I want to give major props to, Anthony Edwards. 32 points, phenomenal game. Another player that I said needed to step up, it was either Jaden McDaniels, Mike Conley, Naz Reid, or Nickeil Alexander-Walker. Two out of those 4 guys did so. Jaden McDaniels with 22 points, Nickeil Alexander-Walker with 17 points. Both guys stepped up in big spots last night, and honestly, they were a big reason why this game was as close as it was. Because honestly, the Thunder could have ran away with this one if it wasn't for the 3 guys that I just mentioned. Plain and simple. But Jaden McDaniels needed a big game. He needed to step back up into that role of third option, like we've seen him step into before. And he did just that. He did it, and he did a great job at doing so in this game. So major props to him. He's obviously going to continue to be the defensive guru that we know he is as a wing perimeter defender, but his offensive game is incredibly underrated. And when it gets going, this Timberwolves team is borderline impossible to beat. And of course, Nickeil Alexander-Walker as well is an unbelievable shooter, and he played phenomenal as well in this game. So that's the good news. Those are the good notes that I want to point out before we go any further. Those were the good notes of this game that deserved major praise. However, However, there were some not good points that we also have to talk about here. I'll start over with Naz Reid. Naz Reid's a player that we know plays at a high level, can play at a high level. We've seen him show up. He won Sixth Man of the Year last year. He's one of the best players in the league. He's one of the best players in his position in the league as a sixth man coming off the bench. This is now 2 games now that he struggled. Game 1, I believe he only had 8 points in game 1. He had 6 points in game 1. He had 0 points through like 22 minutes or something crazy. In game 2, he only had 10 points. He did have 8 rebounds, but he had a very inefficient 10 points. And this is becoming a little bit of a theme now with Naz Reid. Excuse me, I just blanked. Why did I just blank like that? 0 of 5 from 3, 3 of 8 from the field. Just very inefficient shooting night from him. And we know how he can play. We know how good Naz Reid is. But he's not showing it right now. This is my problem with it. So, we know he can play. He can step up in big moments. He just has to. And hopefully that return to Minnesota will do just that for him. That's issue number 1. Issue number 2, Julius Randle, man. How do you go from scoring 28 points in game 1 to 6 in game 2? 6? I mean, I know you're like, I know Julius Randle just joined the team this year and is still trying to get his feet under him. But we've seen Randle turn his name into playoff Randle. People are calling him playoff Randle out here. If you are getting the title of playoff Randle or playoff anything, it means that you're a playoff performer. You're one of those guys that shows up in the playoffs and elevates their game. And you've done that. You did it in game 1. You did it multiple times against the Lakers. You did it multiple times against the Warriors. And you already did it in game 1. Well, then what is 2 of 11 and 0 of 3 from 3? Like, plain and simple. We know how good Julius Randle is. But I think his lack of offensive production was a big reason why the Timberwolves ended up losing this game. So that's issue number 2. Julius Randle, we know you can play at a high level. You're the number 2 option on this team. You need to play at a higher level. 6 points is not going to get it done. Not against this Oklahoma City Thunder team. So hopefully Julius Randle can get back into the film room, see what went wrong for him, and bounce back in game 3 the way we know he can. I know he can bounce back in these situations. Sometimes it's just tough. Especially as the number 2 option. You get more heat. It's the same reason why I got on Anthony Edwards in game 1 with 18 points. 18 points is not going to get it done. Not against this Thunder team. Not when you have SGA on the other side going off for 30 points every single game. It's just not going to get it done. So, yeah. Issue number 2, Julius Randle. And then issue number 3, I mean, I don't know how much we need to talk about this one. I don't even think this one needs to be discussed. So I'm going to just table that whole thing. I was going to go on a little bit of another 90-second rant, or not rant, but 90-second analysis of why this player is not playing very well. But honestly, we'll just leave it where it is on that note. In terms of the third question, the third part of this segment that I wanted to tackle, it really does feel like the Timberwolves are one piece away from being able to contend with this team. It feels like the Timberwolves are just not being able to contend with the Thunder. The way that the Thunder match up with them, the way that the Thunder play defense, the way that the Thunder play offense, the way that the Thunder are able to create mismatches and just attack the Timberwolves in different ways. It really just feels like the Thunder are on another level than the Timberwolves right now. That's what it feels like. And the biggest thing that I feel like needs to be pointed out when we're talking about this situation, it feels like the Timberwolves are just one legitimate, reliable offensive piece away from being able to contend with this team. Anthony Edwards shows up. Jaden McDaniels shows up. Nickeil Alexander-Walker shows up. And I'm not trying to blame Julius Randle, but you cannot have 6 points in a game 2. against a team like the Thunder. It just can't happen. 6 points. 6 points. 2 of 11 from the field. The way the tank that you are, the way you're able to drive into the lane, the way you're able to shoot the ball. I understand bad shooting nights, but 6 points? 6. I don't know. I just don't. I know Julius Randle can play at a better level than what we've seen from him what we saw from him last night. But I think that offensive piece would put them over the top and actually have them contending with this Thunder team. I think they would be able to. I think it would not only be a deeper team, I think they would be able to run in transition with them better. I think they would be able to deepen their bench with them. There's rumors circulating about a Kevin Durant potentially joining Anthony Edwards in Minnesota. Whether that actually happens or not, I'm not willing to bet on it. I'd probably be more inclined to think that either the Spurs or the Warriors could be in contention for him over the Timberwolves or the Miami Heat. One of those 3 teams. But it just feels like the Timberwolves are just one piece away from being able to contend with the Thunder. And that is the offense that is lacking. I think their defense is fine. They've been able to stop OKC multiple times, and it was a big reason why they pulled off a little bit of a comeback in that fourth quarter, cutting the deficit from 16 all the way to under 10. But in the end, it was the offensive inefficiency, the offensive inconsistency that spelled the defeat for the Timberwolves in game 2. That's just my take on it. And yeah, I'm going to leave it on that note because we got more topics to discuss. And I already took a little bit of a 4-minute break. I apologize again for that. But we got to keep this show on the road because there's a lot more to discuss coming up next on the GSMC Basketball Podcast. Next, we're going to look at previewing Game 2 between the Indiana Pacers and New York Knicks. 2 teams. We saw Game 1, how these 2 teams battled it out. If that was just a taste of what to expect as the series draws on, we are in for possibly one of the best series in recent NBA history. I really think so. You're watching the GSMC Basketball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Don't go anywhere.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the GSMC Basketball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Mehrob Fatemi. Getting into our next segment here, we're going to switch gears from recapping last night's game to previewing tonight's game between the Indiana Pacers and New York Knicks. 2 teams. Oh, my God, was game 1 one of the best games, easily the best game of the playoffs so far. It was absolute madness. We saw the Pacers come back from 16 points down over the last 6.5 minutes, force overtime off a miraculous shot by Tyrese Halliburton, and then just take over in overtime. Both teams going back and forth, but the Pacers defense holding strong in the closing seconds to pull out a win in New York. Honestly, a lot of people want to call it a Knicks collapse. I really don't think so. I think the Pacers just outplayed them over that last 6.5 minutes, and frankly, their defense stepped up, their offense stepped up, every aspect of their game that you can think of. Offense, defense, team unity, being able to shoot the ball. All their shots were going in. My God, Aaron Nesmith hit like 3 or 4 clutch threes over the last 6.5 minutes. Tyrese Halliburton hits clutch shots. Pascal Siakam hit some clutch shots. Obi Toppin with a big dunk. This is all around. It was a phenomenal game. Phenomenal game. But if that was just game 1, I'm not sure what the madness that game 2 has in store for us tonight. This is already an unbelievable series. And there was only one game played. I think if you had to ask me, I think the Knicks. I mean, this is a must-win game for the Knicks. You're at home on your home floor. You drop game 1. You're now in game 2. If you lose this game, you're down 2-0 going back to Indiana, hitting the road to go to Indiana, where Indiana plays phenomenally at home. I think they've only lost one game. No, they've lost. Both of their games that they've lost have been on their home floor. No, only one. They've only lost one game on their home floor. And they've only lost one game on the road as well, which is crazy. But this is a Pacers team that's just playing unbelievable basketball. I think they're destined to go to the finals, and whoever faces them in the finals is going to have a tough time as well. Whether it's the Thunder or the Timberwolves, I don't think either of those teams can get past the Pacers with any ease. I really don't think so. I think it goes 6 or 7 regardless of whoever they face. But I think the madness that we have in store tonight, I think the only madness that would happen is if the Pacers somehow pull off another win. If they pull off another win in New York, this series is over. I'm sorry, but this series is over in either 4 or 5 games. And I don't think there's anything that the Knicks could do about it, even if they wanted to. The Pacers are just that good. They're that deep. Their style of basketball just does not match up with the Knicks whatsoever. The Knicks might have some offensive pieces like Cat, Jalen Brunson, OG Anunoby, Josh Hart, Mikal Bridges. You have a bunch of guys that can play basketball at a high level. But when you're looking at this Pacers team, the Knicks may have 5 guys, but look after the 5. Miles McBride. They brought in I can't remember his name. They brought in another young player last night or in game 1 for a few minutes as a tail end. They brought him in as a defensive player. I can't remember his name right now. Miles McBride, you have Mitchell Robinson off the bench, but after that, you don't really have too much. That's 7. Let's look at the Pacers side of things. Tyrese Halliburton, Pascal Siakam, Miles Turner, Aaron Nesmith, Andrew Nembhard, TJ McConnell, Obi Toppin, Benedict Mathurin, Ben Shepherd. Am I missing anybody? I don't think so. I just named 9 guys though. At least 8. You can take Ben Shepherd off the list, but at least 8 guys that can go off for double digits whenever they want. They can go off for 10 plus points whenever they want, and they've done it before. As a unit, all 3 of them have gone off for 10 plus points already in a playoff game this year. That is just how good this Pacers team is. So I think the longer this series draws on, the more in favor it plays for the Pacers. It would be shocking if they pulled it off in 5 games, because I think it would speak more volumes about the Knicks' issues than the Pacers. But at the same time, I don't think I can blame the Knicks. I can't blame the Knicks in this series because they just don't match up with this Pacers team. I don't think anybody does outside of maybe OKC with how deep they play. OKC is the only one I can think of. And Rick Carlisle is an incredible head coach. He has had his guys ready every single time they step on the floor. They have been ready. Regardless, no matter the lead in front of them, the deficit they face, regardless of how they're shooting, they figure it out. 108-92. Karl Anthony Towns is hitting 3 after 3. Knicks are hitting shot after shot after shot. What does Rick Carlisle do? Calls a timeout with 6.5 minutes to play. What happens right after? The Pacers go on an incredible run. The final, it was 120-120? So they went on a 28-12 run. They went on a 28-12 run to tie the game at 120 apiece to force overtime. that doesn't speak volumes on how good this Pacers team is, I don't know what does. I really don't know what does. But, yeah, I mean, I'll leave my prediction for this game later on in the show because we do have a prediction segment coming up. But when we're looking at this game, I think if the Knicks want to have an opportunity, I mean, they have to play the same way that they did in game one. They need Jalen Brunson. This is another thing. I talked about it yesterday in my show. And this is going to be the last word for this segment. I apologize for drawing it on a little bit longer than I expected. When you have Karl-Anthony Towns go off for 35 points, you have Jalen Brunson go off for 43 points, you have OG Anunoby go off for 22 points, you have a bunch of guys collectively playing at an incredibly high level. Everybody. And you lose a 16-point lead, and you're still hitting shots. Cat is still hitting threes. You're still hitting free layups under the basket. Yes, you missed free throws, and that was a killer, and it was a big reason why they lost that game, why the Knicks lost. But you have to give credit where credit is due. The Pacers just outplayed them in the last 6.5 minutes, and I don't think anybody could have beaten that Pacers team that showed up in the last 6.5 minutes in Madison Square Garden in Game 1. I don't think the Thunder could have done it. I don't think the Timberwolves could have done it. I don't think anybody could have done it. The Pacers just played 6.5 minutes to the closest vision of perfection that I've seen in my time watching the NBA playoffs. I really think so. That's how good the Pacers played that last 6.5 minutes. And I have to give them it's their offense. Well, it's their defense that got it done first, but then their offense being able to attack the hoop, their shooting getting going. Tyrese Halliburton taking over in the game. It's just you have to give credit where credit is due. But yeah, you have to play the exact same way if you have an opportunity. If the Knicks want to have an opportunity, they need to feed Jalen Brunson the ball early on, get him going. They need to get Karl-Anthony Towns going, and they need to get 2 out of those 3 role players out. The Mikal Bridges, OG Anunoby, or Josh Hart. 2 out of those 3 need to get going if the Knicks want to have an opportunity. Go off for 15, 20 plus points. But yeah, I'm gonna put a pin in it there just because. I mean, we can talk about if, but, when, where until the Roosters come out. But we have Game 2 kicking off later tonight, so why don't we just let the guys show up and play the game of basketball the way they always do. I'm going to take a short break. Coming up next, we're going to switch gears over to the Denver Nuggets. The Denver Nuggets just hired David Adelman, their interim head coach, to a 3-year extension. Kind of expected, honestly, going 3-0 to close the regular season, pushing their series against the Thunder to 7 games. Even though they got obliterated in Game 7, it is what it is. You go to a Game 7 against the best team in the NBA. It was a good series. It was. And then we'll discuss what to expect from the Nuggets over the offseason, what pieces they might need, and what to really expect from the core group of guys in Denver. You're watching the GSMC Basketball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Don't go anywhere.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the GSMC Basketball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Mehrob Fatemi. Getting into our next segment here, we're going to switch gears from the NBA playoffs over to the NBA offseason, as well as a coaching move that just came in pretty much right after my podcast yesterday, funnily enough. But it was a phenomenal, it was a good signing, I think, the Nuggets signing David Adelman to a 3-year extension. Obviously, we remember how shocking it was when we saw Mike Malone get fired. When he was released by the Denver Nuggets, everybody was shocked. Just a week left before the playoffs, you're cutting your head coach, an NBA championship caliber head coach that won the championship 2 years prior. You cut him off at the knees, and you bring David Adelman in as an interim head coach. And honestly, Adelman was in the works, was behind Malone for a while. Nothing's been confirmed yet. I've seen some reports though from Shams, from Brian Windhorst. It looks like the Nuggets were kind of planning on doing this in terms of firing Mike Malone for a couple years now. The reason why they waited on it was because Mike Malone won the NBA championship 2 years ago. But especially after a Game 7 loss against the Timberwolves, as well as some news that came out of the locker room with him and getting into a little bit of a personal relationship, not a personal relationship, but giving some extra second chances to Russell Westbrook, whatever you want to call that, just saying, we'll give you a chance here. I think they're referring to the play against the Timberwolves in double overtime when Russell Westbrook missed an open layup, and then on the other side of the court in the waning seconds, fouled a 3-point shooter that gave him the go-ahead free throws to win the game. I think that's the only thing I can think of in terms of giving Russell Westbrook a second chance after that. But at the same time, it's Russell Westbrook. He's a Hall of Fame talent. Mistakes happen. And he's played exceptionally well. He played exceptionally well in the playoffs. So we have to give credit where credit is due to Russell Westbrook. But this is David Adelman, who's been sitting behind Mike Malone for about 6 or 7 years prior to this. Sitting on the bench as an assistant coach and just watching and learning as the art of being a head coach. And this is his chance. He proved himself in the playoffs. He did look a little stagnant, and it looks like the coaching change has had an impact on Nikola Jokic as his numbers have taken a little bit of a dip. But, and I say but, the players like Jamal Murray are playing well. The team as a whole is playing well in terms of team unity. Everybody was playing. The Nuggets looked deep for a second. They looked like they had 5-6 guys that could go off for 10 plus points whenever they wanted to. And that is a sign of great depth, something that we've lamented that the Nuggets didn't have. So I like this hire. I think this is a good hire for the Nuggets, even though I have seen some Nuggets fans out there saying that he hasn't played. He didn't coach very well. I think if you go to a Game 7 against the best team in your conference, the team that's most likely destined to win the NBA championship, I think you get a little bit of a pass that you lost a Game 7, or you got obliterated in a Game 7, I should say. It's your first year. Not even a year. You got like 2 months of being a head coach, and you went to a Game 7 against the Thunder. Plain and simple, that's a great performance from David Adelman, and we have to give credit where credit is due. In terms of what's next for the Denver Nuggets, this is where things get tricky. First things first, I don't know what to expect from Nikola Jokic here. I don't know exactly how his contract is shaped up to, what his contract is shaped out to be. I'm going to look that up right now. But in terms of Nikola Jokic, I don't think Nikola Jokic likes this hire at all. I really think he misses Mike Malone because of how he's been playing. Okay. I was going to say he might opt out of his contract. There's no chance that Nikola Jokic opts out of his contract until 2027. So that's not happening. But when you're looking at the Denver Nuggets, it just feels like Nikola Jokic, he definitely has had a dip in his numbers. No doubt about it. Going from 30-point, 20-rebound games, even 30-point, 15-rebound games. We saw that that was pretty much consistently. We saw that to 13, 10, and 10, 17, 10, and 10, 25, 8, and 7. It just looks like his numbers have taken a dip since Mike Malone was fired. And I've said it a couple times. Outside of that Game 1 where Nikola Jokic had 40 and 22, or 42 and 22 rebounds against the Oklahoma City Thunder. Outside of that game, we haven't seen Nikola Jokic show up in Nikola Jokic fashion the way we know he can and dominate a game. Whether that has to do with injury, whether that has to do with coaching change, that's yet to be seen. But I think that's going to be something interesting to watch as we go into the summer and into the offseason. But what's next for this Denver team in the offseason? I think, number one, you need to deepen your bench. You have to. You have Aaron Gordon. You have Nikola Jokic. That's awesome. You have Jamal Murray. You have Russell Westbrook. That's awesome. I think you can potentially look to move a Michael Porter Jr. and or a Christian Braun to get another decent role player. Say you could get your hands on Tim Hardaway Jr. Say you could get your hands on Asser or Amon Thompson. Even though I don't think Detroit or Houston would get rid of either of those guys. I think if you got your hands potentially on a Drew Holiday, that could pay dividends. There are guys out there on the market right now that potentially could be good fits for you. And I think the biggest thing that the Nuggets have to focus on is depth. Focus on building your depth, building your team from the ground up. Do not just look for big name players and just look for the big name signings. Do not do that. Look for a smart signing. Go for small forwards, shooting guards. Try and build your shooting portfolio while adding Nikola Jokic to attack the inside, because that would make you a multi-dimensional team that would be borderline impossible to guard. Can you imagine if you have Nikola Jokic driving into the lane and then you say you have a Klay Thompson on one side, you have Tim Hardaway Jr. on the other side, you have Jamal Murray at the top of the key, you have Aaron Gordon sitting in the corner. These are all just lethal three-point shooters when they get their shot going. I'm not saying they should get a Klay Thompson. I think Tim Hardaway Jr. could pay dividends. I don't think Klay Thompson works. But say you could get Colin Knippel, even though I think Colin Knippel is probably going to be a top 10, top 15 pick in this year's draft. I think Colin Knippel could be beautiful for the Denver Nuggets if he can get drafted there. There are guys out there that I think could pay dividends for this Nuggets team. Just focus on your depth, focus on shooting, focus on trying to build, like I said, building your team from the ground up. That is what they need to focus on doing, first and foremost. But congratulations to David Adelman, going from assistant coach for a long time to now a head coach for 3 years. And we'll see how he does. We'll see how this Nuggets team looks in 3 years. And we'll probably give him a multi-year, year-by-year analysis to see how he's growing into the role. But yeah, it's phenomenal hiring. And we'll see how this team does in the offseason. I think they'll be a busy team in the offseason. I really do. But yeah, I'm going to leave it on that note. Coming up next, we're going to go switch gears back over to the playoffs, and I'm going to give my weekend predictions for what to expect in the NBA playoffs. We have games tonight. We have games on Sunday. We have games everywhere. And honestly, thank God for basketball, because basketball is awesome. Thank God for basketball. I wanted to check one more thing. Is there 3 games tonight? Yeah, there is 3 games over the weekend. We have Pacers tonight. We have Thunder Timberwolves tomorrow, and then we get Pacers Knicks once again on Sunday. You're watching the GSMC Basketball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Don't go anywhere. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the GSMC Basketball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Mehrob Fatemi. Getting into our next segment here, we talked about we've talked about the playoffs. We recapped games. We've previewed games. We've talked about some off-season news that's already coming out, and this is the style of shows that we're going to have over the next couple weeks. So I hope you guys can bear with me here. We got the turning of the tide with the playoffs. We got the introduction of the offseason, and we're getting both. We're getting a mix of both worlds right now. But in our fifth segment here, we're going to switch gears back over to the playoffs, and I'm going to give my predictions on what to expect over the next 3 days of NBA playoff basketball. Starting with tonight, you got the Indiana Pacers going into New York for a massive Game 2. Game 2 that is shaping out to be. It's already one of the more hyped games so far at the playoffs. We saw the Knicks fold in Game 1, absolutely fold like a lawn chair. I don't like to call it a choke, but a fold is a fold. You lose a 16-point lead over the last 6 minutes. A fold is a fold. Whether it was your fault or not, a fold is a fold. But this is a Pacers team that's playing phenomenal basketball, and this is also a must-win game for New York. So this is two sides that are pretty much clashing with one another, two forces that clash with one another. How does the saying go? It's a rock and a heart. You go in between. You have an unstoppable force and an immovable object. Sorry, I had to think about that, because if I didn't think about that right there, I was gonna probably lose my mind first. I was gonna probably kick myself about it after the show. But thank God I thought of it. But that is what this Pacers-Knicks series is shaping out to be. It feels like two sides that are just fighting against one another, pushing back and forth, and whoever gets the ball in their hands to close out the game pretty much wins the game, even though the Knicks got shut down. That is my biggest question mark, though. Did the Pacers find a loophole in the Knicks offense? Did they find a way to shut down this Knicks offense? Because that's what it looked like at the end of game 5, at the end of Game 1. It really did. Over the last 6.5 minutes, tell me the last time you've seen Jalen Brunson finish with 7 turnovers. 7. I've never seen Jalen Brunson with 7 turnovers. Never, ever. You might see 3, you might see 4, but 7, no. That is something that I've never seen. Karl Anthony Towns is going to need to step up once again. OG Anunoby, Mikal Bridges. Mikal Bridges is probably the X factor in this game for the Knicks, because he can sometimes go off for 30 points, and then other times he can go off for 10 points. It depends on what Mikal Bridges shows up in this game. And honestly, they're going to need the 30-point Mikal Bridges if they want to have a chance in this game. I really think so. Tom Thibodeau will have his guys ready to go, though. Tonight is if there was a night to go all out and think of a game like a Game 7, before Game 7, of course. It's not Game 7, but this is pretty much the next Game 7. If they lose tonight, this series is over. I will say it again. If they lose tonight, this series is over. OVER. So I'm rolling with the Pacers in this one. I just think their talent is unbelievable. I think they're just a mismatch for the Knicks to deal with. But I'm not dismissing the Knicks by any means. I think they'll be ready to go, and they'll show up like it's a Game 7 tonight. I really think so. Not only do they have to, but I think they will, just because this is the NBA playoffs we're talking about here. This is Jalen Brunson. This is Karl Anthony Towns. This is a group of guys in New York that are ready to go, and they understand the assignment ahead of them right now. They'll be ready to go in this game. But I'm rolling with the Pacers regardless. Sorry. But that's tonight. Tomorrow, we get Game 3 between the Timberwolves and Thunder. And I think we have to roll with the Timberwolves on this one, because obviously going down 3-0 is the end of the series. I think since this series started in OKC, I think we have to give Minnesota a chance, because obviously home court advantage plays a role in the NBA playoffs, absolutely. And this is a team in the Oklahoma City Thunder that's never been here before. So I think game 3 between these two teams is going to be phenomenal. I think both of these teams are going to play their hearts out, and I think this is going to be one of the best games of the playoffs, game 3 between these two teams. I really think so. But I'm rolling with the Timberwolves. I'm rolling with Anthony Edwards. I think that group of guys will be ready to go. Chris Finch will have his guys ready to go to put the series at 2-1 apiece. Or not 2-1. 2-1 Thunder in the lead by 1 game. And then we get game 3 between the Knicks and Pacers on Sunday. And in that game, I'm probably going to roll with the Pacers in this. Whoever doesn't win this game tonight, I'm probably going to roll with in game 3. If the Knicks lose, I'm going to take them in game 3. If the Pacers lose, I'm taking them to win game 3. That's just how I'm thinking about it right now. But yeah, in those two series, of course, if we're talking about the Pacers side of things, it's just not fair if we don't talk about Tyrese Haliburton. If we don't talk about Andrew Nembhard. Nembhard is most likely going to be the X factor in this game, in that game 3, just because he's the second number 2 option on this Indiana Pacers squad. But at the same time, the number 2 option just shifts around, if we're being honest. There's a legitimate number 1 in Tyrese Haliburton. But outside of him, Miles Turner, Siakam, Nembhard, even Nesmith. We saw Nesmith shoot critical shots in the fourth quarter of game 1. And he was a big reason why they ended up winning game 1. So we have to give him credit where credit is due. Because if it was not for him, I don't think the Pacers win game 1. I really don't think so. So yeah, we have to give credit where credit. I think Nesmith, Nembhard, the entire depth of the Indiana Pacers team is the X factor in this series. But for the Knicks, of course, it's Cat, it's OG Anunoby, it's Mikal Bridges. It's the stars that have to show up. If you want to beat the Indiana Pacers, you have to beat them at their own game. And the only way to do that is offensively. You have the Pacers look at you and say, we're going to outscore you, and there's nothing you can do about it. We're going to shoot the basketball more than you, and you have to... We're going to shoot the basketball more than you. Try to stop us. I don't know why that was so hard. Sorry about that. But this is a Knicks team that needs to step up in this moment. Tom Thibodeau's pretty much coaching for his... this is for his job right now. He's coaching to retain his job for another season. If he loses this series, I think he will most likely, not 100%, but most likely will lose his job, unfortunately. And this is Tom Thibodeau that's been around the league for forever. He's been around the league for ages. He's a big part of what the Knicks do, and he set up he pretty much grew and set up the culture that New York has today. But his issues in the playoffs, the way he coaches his guys, like when you have a guy like Mikal Bridges, who's renowned as an Iron Man, a guy that's never missed a game in the NBA, not only in the playoffs, but in the NBA regular season, has never missed a game in his career. This is Mikal Bridges that we're talking about here, saying, oh, you're playing us 50 minutes a game. We're all getting exhausted. I don't know exactly what his quote was, but it was along those lines. Look up Mikal Bridges, Tom Thibodeau quote. But yeah, this is a Tom Thibodeau that's going to be coaching for his job right now in New York. And we'll see how it all shapes out. I think it depends on how tonight plays out. If the Knicks can win tonight, they're not in a good spot. Do not get me wrong, but they're in an okay spot. They can get it done. All they need to do then is to split with Indiana in Indiana. If they can do that, they have an opportunity to come back in this series. But I don't think so. I really just don't think they have it in them. And on top of that, I think the longer that this series draws on, like I said earlier in the show, the longer this series draws on, the more it plays in the favor of the Indiana Pacers, the more it plays in the favor of their depth, of their transition style basketball, of their speed. The Pacers just love to push the basketball, push it down the floor, play at a fast pace, similar to the Oklahoma City Thunder. If the Pacers do that, And if this series draws on and they continue to play at that tempo, I don't see the Knicks getting it done. I really don't. But I'm going to leave it on that note. We have another, of course, I just labeled down, if we're going to put an overview of all my predictions, by Monday we should see, a 2-1 series either way. 2-1? Am I making that, is my mathing? Because let's say Pacers win, 2-1 Pacers. I think 2-1 Pacers and then 2-1 Thunder. Yeah. Sorry, my math was not mathing for a second. But I have 2-1 Thunder, 2-1 Pacers leading their series come Monday. And we'll see if I'm right about those predictions. But I'm going to leave it on that note. Thank you guys for another unbelievable podcast. And thank you for tuning into the podcast. Thank you for tuning into the GSMC Basketball Podcast brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, your support means a lot to us, so please remember to leave a positive review in the comments below. Whether it's positive, whether it's negative, please let us know what we're doing well. Let us know what we can improve upon. And you guys are a big part of what we do here at the GSMC Sports Network. So let us know let us know if there's any content that you guys want to see more of. And if you have any questions or takes in the comment, please be sure to leave them in the comments below. And I'll make sure to answer those as soon as I can. For more content and updates, be sure to follow us on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, and Snapchat. Thank you guys for another unbelievable podcast. Pacers, Knicks later tonight. Thunder, Timberwolves tomorrow. Pacers, Knicks Sunday night. I'll see you guys once again on Monday and bright and early at 9 a.m. This is Mehrob Fatemi, the host of the GSMC Basketball Podcast, signing off. Bye-bye. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your Friday afternoons and a phenomenal weekend. Bye-bye.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet, damn, ain't that great.